Hey guys, I'm going to share with you the differences between the giant Angoras and the wee little English Angoras. There is some distinct differences in wool, their body, their personality, all of the above. English Angoras are the smallest. They're fluffy everywhere. Their face from head to toe, they are the most adorable things on the entire planet. Giant Angoras, these guys are like their name. They're huge and everything about them is large. Their body, they have a little bit cleaner face than the English Angoras, but they do have a tremendous amount of wool to them too. Some key points to remember. Giants were made from German Angoras, so I call them cousins. They're not really cousins, but they're distantly related. So sometimes if you put two, especially the white ones, a German Angora and a Giant Angora next to each other, I have a hard time telling them apart. They're virtually the same animal, but different, very different. And Germans are hands down the king of wool production, in my opinion. They were bred for wool production. They have the longer cylindrical body, which has ease of shearing. Their temperaments are laid back. They're sweetie pies. They just like, oh, wake me up when you're done. And their wool production is astronomical. The eye garb focuses primarily on wool weight production. And that production is primarily how they're registered and it's tracked. Giant Angoras are part of the American Rabbit Association and they have to meet the standard. Now, is that the same thing as the registration for iGarb? No, completely different. Totally different organizations, different animals, different all the way around. The Germans, just in a nutshell, their registration process is primarily based around their wool production. Their body was bred to be nice and cylindrical, even, so you just no of these big valleys that we have in the giants, because the giants have a commercial body, right? The wool production is measured in a 90-day cycle, very stringent, very controlled process, and that is recorded. And it's recorded on their pedigrees if they are registered. Breeders, they have a breeder number. That has to be in the rabbit's right ear. Very controlled, very stringent. Pedigrees are very controlled and very stringent, that whole process. And it benefits the breeders and the rabbits. Now, giants are a little different. They are part of the American Rabbit Association and they have a unique registration. And what that basically entails is on that day of registration, the giant Angora needs to meet the standard, the SOP, and have no DQs and no mention of wool production. So you must meet the SOP, body type, ears, face, all that fun stuff. There is a lot of discussion about wool, but nothing on wool weight. So that's all I'm going to say about the German Angoras today. Now, they are a beautiful Angora wool producing rabbit. Yeah. Somebody asked me a few weeks ago how much I paid for my last German Angora, which was just a few months ago. And I told them, and they about gasped. They are worth every penny. They are wool producers, and that's what they do, and they do it very well. Germans and giants, they're apples and oranges. They're both fruits. They're the same, but they're very different. Now let's talk about cherries, the sweet little things. The English Angoras, oh God, they are smaller, they're lighter. There's almost nothing to them. The first time I picked one up with all the biggest fur on a bitty chews, I almost fell over backwards because they're the same size visually as my giants, but there's about 10 pounds difference. Well, about, yeah. I just like, whew, there's nothing to it, nothing but fluff. And they're just, oh, and they're sweet. Oh my gosh. They sit still. They love grooming. They are cuddle bugs. I've only had them for a little more than a year now, and I'm hooked. I like them. Giants, they ain't got weight to them. They're big. They've got presence. They got bone, and they're definitely more production. More, yeah, more of everything. More personality too. Now let's talk wool. English Angora is really soft, like cotton candy. It's just delicious. That's making me hungry. It is, yeah. There's just not as much to the English Angora as far as wool production as there is with comparing to giants. How can we compare those two? Cherries and apples. They're totally different. But you know, when I get my hands on to spin some English Angora, I love it. There's nothing wrong with the Giant Angora. What's my favorite? Don't make me choose. I'm not going to say today. Yeah, they're just different. Giant Angoras produce enough wool to help support my Sinfully soft yarn line. English Angoras, I don't know. I don't know. I am going to do a yarn run specifically with some English Angora wool. I've been buying up some of Betty Chu's bulk. So it's going to be Betty English yarn. I think, yeah, I think it's going to be great. Now let's talk grooming. English, that's very high on the maintenance scale. They're the top. But I think there's a trick to them. If you keep their wool at a manageable level, no more than 3 to 4 inches, and you love to groom, yeah, you're going to have to be out there quite a bit. Blow, brushing their legs, because they have fur everywhere. Giants, yeah, they still require a good share of grooming too. There's a lot of them. Like from shear day, you shear them, and then you have about a month or two up until about 2 inches. They're pretty low maintenance ish. You still have to go out there and check them and whatnot and blow them out. But once they get to about 2 inches or more, then they require more maintenance. And they, like the English, they share this one trait. I know for sure. They have wool all over their bellies, their front feet, their back feet, everywhere, where it's pretty inconvenient to be telling the truth. Um, from what I've seen, I don't have a whole lot of experience with satins and a little bit with French, but they are lighter on the density on their bellies. They don't have any woolly front feet. They shouldn't have woolly back feet, but some of them do. Not real seriously woolly, not like the English and Giants. And they have clean faces too, as far as I say clean. They have short hair on their faces. No sideburns, no woolly English ear tassels, things like that. So temperaments. English Angoras, hands down, I have got to say, without any reservations, are the sweetest, calmest, most adorable snuggle bunnies on the entire planet. I'm sure there is an exception, but I haven't seen one. They are just sweet. I've seen the gals at a show, they groom them, puff them out, and they put them on a mat that's sitting on top of their travel cages. So here's the travel cage, here's the mat, and here's their beautifully groomed English Angora. And they can walk away. And that English Angora that just knows that he or she is stunning and they're just going to sit there. And they do turn their head once in a while. So you know they're alive. They're breathing. They're a real animal, but they could sit there for hours. And on the giant Angoras, I can't do that. I could never walk away. Sometimes if I'm really quick, I put them on the table and I turn around, but I try to always have a hand on them, especially the younger ones, teenagers, even the older ones, they're clowns. That's what they do. They're big and they have big personalities and they know it. They want to see what's going on. For the most part, none of them are mean. There's a lot to them, personality and physically. And they're not afraid of anything. They're like, oh, it's a show. Let me run up and down the tables. I saw that running breed do it. Why can't I do it? Yeah, if you just got to decide what you want out of your rabbit and what you're willing and able to manage. Do you want a wool producer and you're willing to get your coffee on and get out there and groom them quite frequently and have a space and you're patient? A giant or more than one giant is the way to go. Hands down, those are my favorite. Now, if you want something that little, peaceful, zen, that's your English Angora. Yeah. So it just depends on what you like. Now, again, my heart and soul belongs to the Giant Angoras. I've had them for years now, and I just love them. Working through the COD and perfecting the chestnut color, as my husband and I have done, and I'm continually playing with the color genes, and yeah, they are like, to me, the low man on the totem pole. Whenever you go to a big show, there's usually the lowest numbers in Giant Angoras. They don't have very many breeders. They haven't had a whole lot of attention. And yeah, there's a low man on the totem pole. So I'm kind of sucker for those. they, they needed a little boost. So we got the chestnuts approved. That has opened up the door to many other breeders that want to work with color, because white, I mean, there is something said about white wool production, right? You can dye it any color in the world and you know what you're getting. Well, pretty much. But if you start with a colored rabbit, there's an undertone to that. So dyeing, you can still do it, absolutely, but it's just going to be different. It's not going to be as vibrant and bright colors as you can get with the white, because the white is like pure white. I'm out of it now, but we had polar white yarn and it was almost so white. It was amazing. I was asked a few times if it's real rabbit. How can they get rabbits that white? So I have some experience with French, and they are an awesome rabbit too. They have a different wool structure. They have the same body type. They have a commercial body type as the giants. They share that. Some of them are quite large. On the size scale, they're right in the medium. They're between the English and the giants. They share that with the satins. Now, satins, I haven't had them in my barn very long. I've had a few, but it's been transporting and whatnot, so I haven't had them long enough to really give you my honest evaluation. I can tell you from watching the girls from afar at shows and other fiber events, they are stunning. They are like their names, they glow, and the wool glows. And hand spinners, they just adore that fiber. They say it's very soft and it's incredible. So, yeah, for me, the wool production just wasn't enough for me to dive into the satin realm, where the giants were a natural fit for me and my Sinfully soft yarns. And now, of course, English with their sweet little zen temperaments. Now, with all that said, you have your English, they're a little higher on the maintenance scale, right? The wool structure is, I would say, because they really don't have a distinct guard hair. They do have guard hair, don't get me wrong, but it feels just as soft as their undercoat. It's hard to distinguish which is which. And you can grow it really long. There's many people that do for those big, humongous show coats, and it's a lot of work. It's not for the average breeder. Don't try to do it. I've done it, and it's a lot of work. If I had a pile of English, I would keep them as wool producers. I'd grow them out 3 to 4 inches long, shear them, and start all over. And then I'd take them to shows when they're 3 or 4 inches long for a little while, because there's not very many at shows in our area. Yeah. So anyway, and then you have your French. They are a little easier maintenance. They don't have much going on in their face, their front feet, back feet. The bellies are lighter in their wool density than either of the English or the Giant. I think the Satins share that same trait. They have clean feet, clean ears, and a clean head. And when I say clean, I mean regular short-haired rabbit length. They don't have the woolly going on, which makes them a little easier on the maintenance scale. Now, I do have to put in a caution here. Nowhere, anytime, including myself, should we put the word easy with the words Angora rabbit. No, it doesn't belong. Truly, it doesn't belong. There is no such thing as an easy Angora. That gets me all hyped up every time I hear it. And I even say it sometimes. The French Angora is easier. That's just wrong. Although they are easier. Now, I just explained why I think they're easier. But if you're diving into the Angora world for the first time, be sure to get you a support system from the breeder, from fellow breeders. The internet opens up a whole world of opportunity for us, you guys. And one thing that I would recommend to everybody getting into Angoras, whether you show or not, is join NARBC, NARBC, the National Angora Breeders Association. Yeah, it costs like $15 a year, cheap. And costs you what, 2 cups of coffee? Well, that's a really good cup of coffee for $7. Okay, 3 cups of coffee can buy you a year's worth of membership with NARBC. And if you ever want to see what they're all about, on their website, National Angora Rabbit Breeders Club, there's a tab that you can read the last year's worth of newsletters, and that's rolling. So when they post the new newsletter, like they just posted March, last year's March newsletter went away. So you can see the last year's worth of information, and there's a huge amount there. Another gold mine that a lot of people don't realize is they have a closed private Facebook group. They have a couple of them, actually. The main group is for everybody, and it's mostly for announcements and things talking about their upcoming shows, like the big show that's coming up in May in Reno, Nevada, the National Angora. They travel all around the United States in different locations every spring. And this spring, it's going to be in our neck of woods. So I'm really excited. Yay! The second group is my favorite. I really don't like Facebook. If you guys know me, I'm not on there a lot. There's so much noise and craziness. So I get overwhelmed very easily. That being said, our staff within NARBC's board of directors and our secretary, Lori, I love you. She does a wonderful job, but only paid members can be part of that private group. So it's a controlled group. None of these people that are coming in and spam and marking themselves as anonymous and making weird statements and just doing weird stuff. There's none of that. All of the members there are dedicated Angora people. They either have very little experience or decades of experience. And there's decades and decades of experienced people there just waiting to chime in and help you if you need help. Now, again, the second group, for the mentoring group, is primarily for you to ask these silly questions that you're afraid to ask in public or in the big group, because that's for mentoring to help you, whether it's learning how to shear, to sort your wool, how to groom, how to fill out an entry form. What's this wool skein garment contest all about? That group is there for you. Yeah. And you can feel safe or safer on the internet. Is there a such thing as being safe on the internet? No. But when talking rabbits, and especially our special Angoras, it's hard to find a safe space where you feel comfortable. And that's one that I can truly feel comfortable on sharing with everybody. Join Narvik if you haven't yet. The last thing I want to do is share about buying and selling rabbits. This is my personal passion. This is springtime. We have baby rabbits galore. A lot of people do that when we're reading first signs of spring. They're like cooperating when they haven't cooperated all winter long, and we have rabbits. And actually, this coming national show in Reno is a really good place to buy a rabbit. The thing is you need to connect with those breeders ahead of time, well in advance, so they can make arrangements for transportation there and from. So if you're a breeder or a person looking for a rabbit, just take your time on buying a rabbit. They are not impulse buys. If your children happen to walk by, oh, mom, I want that fluffy thing, or you, and I've done this, I walk by, I need to have that. I want that right now. Be calm, take a breath, be ready. Do your research and be ready for that purchase. And don't sell one just on a whim. Please, an Angora or even a regular rabbit. If your kid wants a rabbit, buy him a stuffed animal and then teach him how to care for it. Maybe buy him a plant. I don't know. Cat? Those are lower maintenance. They pretty much groom themselves. Not all the time, but I'm going on this wasn't part of the script. Sorry, you guys. Anyway, springtime. Don't buy a rabbit on impulse. Don't do it, especially an Angora rabbit. Yeah. And if you breed and you make more, plan for that breeding. Make sure you have an outlet for every single rabbit that you produce. It's not fair to those critters. We need to be responsible human beings. It's hard to be responsible and do the right thing, but we must. We are the smart ones. We're supposed to be anyway. Anyway, oh God, I've lectured you enough, okay? That's enough. So if you're trying to decide and you still have some questions, go ahead and drop a note in the comment section. Follow me. I'm doing lives twice a week, Monday and Wednesdays. So far, it's been going really good. 10 o'clock Pacific time. We do live shearings, live baby bunny evaluations, all kinds of stuff. So if you have any questions, I can answer them on the lives too. That'd be fun. Anyway, I rambled off long enough for this video. You guys have a great day and yeah, have a great weekend.